On a faraway, distant planet, a race called the Ancients— no, not those ancients, or those ancients. These like semi-translucent lanky blue dudes had their planet destroyed by an entity called the End, which is a fitting name. These aliens escaped their ruined planet carrying 7 gemstones, which held unlimited power, called the Chaos Emeralds. Whether it's powering giant machinery, letting the user warp through space and stop time, and they can even give a hedgehog jaundice. And the one object that can amplify the Chaos Emeralds' powers and turn them into Super Emeralds, or nullify them completely, is the Chad Master Emerald on planet Earth, which, like a magnet, caused the Ancients to pull a Pikmin reference and crash their spaceship on Earth, specifically on Starfall Island, where they used the unlimited source of energy to build unnecessarily cool-looking battle robots called Titans, which they used against the End, which ultimately resulted in their end, as the Ancients became history. Yeah, that wasn't good. However, they managed to seal the End inside of a Titan, and then seal the Titan inside of a cyberspace dimension that they created. The few surviving Ancients brought the Chaos Emeralds to the Altar of the Emerald, on Angel Island, which floats in midair off of pure Chad Master Emerald power. And being near the Master Emerald eventually caused the Ancients to turn into adorable creatures called chows. Yeah, that's right. Eat your fruit, you ancient alien creature. Well, we're 2 minutes into the video and we haven't talked about a humanoid animal thing. So let me introduce you to the Knuckles clan of Echidna, who wish to use the colorful gems for their own personal gain. But the chief's daughter, Tikal, was like, "No, you're going to make the chows sad." And so they pushed her aside and kicked some chows, angering this mutated 6-foot-tall mega chow named Chaos, who harnessed the Emerald's powers, becoming perfect chaos, and nearly ended their entire race. So Tikal sacrificed herself, sealing the two of them inside the Master Emerald, and the Echidnas got humbled and decided to guard the Master Emerald instead. Gerald Robotnik was a genius scientist who built a whole space colony, which I'm sure looks great on his resume. And so he was chosen by the government to run a medical project with the goal of creating an immortal being, which interested Gerald because his granddaughter was not immortal and was in fact dying of a disease. So rationally, Gerald made an agreement with an evil alien called Black Doom, where Gerald would get some of his alien DNA to inject into his test subject in exchange for a promise that his creation will bring Doom the 7 Chaos Emeralds in 50 years, so that Doom can use the power of chaos control to warp a giant alien stronghold comet to the planet and enslave all of the Earthlings. Gerald just took a chance that his creation infused with evil alien blood just wouldn't help destroy the Earth. And so Gerald sorta succeeded, creating a prototype ultimate life form called the Bio Lizard, but it wasn't cute enough to hang out with his granddaughter, so he tried again and created the much cuter hedgehog, Shadow, who became best friends with his granddaughter, Maria. But eventually the government learned that he had linked up with an evil alien who wishes to destroy the world, so they canned the operation and eliminated everyone on board the space ark, including Maria, who was like, "Save the world, Shadow! My final message! Goodbye." Gerald, who was imprisoned and forced to continue his scientific research, was rightfully ticked off. So he modified Shadow's memories so that his granddaughter was like, "Kill them all, Shadow! Kill them all!" And also set up the space colony Ark to plummet down to Earth if all 7 Chaos Emeralds were placed inside of it. Meanwhile, there's this blue hedgehog called Sonic. Have you ever heard of him? He runs fast and, well, that's really all we know about him. I mean, his birthplace doesn't even have a picture on the Sonic wiki. And then there's Gerald's grandson, Ivo Robotnik, who, similar to his grandfather, possesses high intellect, but instead of saving sick little girls, his main motivation is to rule the world and build an evil empire. Well, Eggman starts stuffing animals into robots, and Sonic keeps unstuffing them, so eventually he starts using flowers instead. however that works. But Sonic still wants to stop him, because he's still chaining planets to the Earth, and also kidnapping other hedgehogs with shiny metal versions of himself. So Sonic saves this significantly pinker hedgehog, Amy Rose, and she falls in love with him and starts chasing him around everywhere. Then he saves a two-tailed fox creatively named Tails from some bullies, and he falls in love with him and starts chasing him around everywhere. Tails also helps Sonic on his adventures by being a great mechanic and building him planes to fly around with. And Sonic is like, "Oh, that's cool, buddy, but check out what I can do with the 7 Chaos Emeralds. I can fly beside your plane, if you really want me to." Robotnik then tricks the last echidna, Knuckles, into smacking the emeralds out of Sonic, and becoming the Doctor's new lackey, until he realizes that he's being duped, and instead joins the good side, helping Sonic and Tails take down Robotnik's copyright-infringing space station, the Death Egg. Sonic adds another dimension to his character, and Eggman comes across some ancient echidna ruins, learning about a powerfully wet being that was sealed inside the Master Emerald. So he cracks it open, thinking he can use chaos to destroy a city and build his new empire on the vacant lot. And then spends the next couple days hiding 10 feet away from Sonic and friends, and stealing their Chaos Emeralds after they drop from their invisible to the human eye pockets. And finally, Chaos, with all 7 Chaos Emeralds, successfully destroys a city, and then gets destroyed by Supersonic, who successfully saves the city, or at least the ruins of it. Chaos and Tikal's spirit see that the Chows have survived thousands of years into the future, and they peacefully pass on to the afterlife. And Knuckles puts the Master Emerald back together for like a couple days. Eggman reads some of his father's old research and is like, "Oh, you mean there's another uncontrollable monster that I can unleash onto the world? Sign me up!" So he breaks Shadow out of his confinement and is like, "Oh, hey, Sonic. Bring the Chaos Emeralds to the space colony Ark." Yeah, sure, Sonic. Eggman then spots Knuckles beefing with a gem thief named Rouge and is like, "Well, it has the same shape as a Chaos Emerald. Yoink." And so Knuckles is forced to shatter the Master Emerald into a million pieces. Meanwhile, Shadow steals a Chaos Emerald from a bank, and literally everyone is like, "Hey, it's Sonic!" Back on the space colony Ark, Eggman uses 6 of the 7 emeralds that the baddies have collected to power the Ark's cannon. And as a show of force to the world, he blows up half of the moon, which is like the most successfully evil thing Eggman has ever done. I don't think Sonic can fix this one. Sonic attempts to trick Eggman with a fake 7th emerald that Tails created, which would shut down the Ark's cannon. Eggman's 200 IQ adult brain tricks the bipedal forest animal into revealing that it's a fake emerald. And Eggman yeets Sonic and his fake emeralds out into space, where he manages to pull some power out of the fake emerald and warp himself back onto the Ark before he explodes. Robotnik places the last Chaos Emerald into the Ark, but instead of activating the cannon, it does the opposite and plummets the whole thing down to Earth. And his grandpappy's face pops up on a TV and is like, "This is my revenge against humanity for taking the only, and I mean only, family member that I ever truly loved away from me." And Amy is like, "We gotta save the world!" Oh yeah, that's what Maria said. So Shadow teams up with Sonic to send the Ark away from the planet, while Crush 40 plays in the background. And Sonic is like, "Oh yeah, that was awesome, buddy." Wait, why are you plummeting down to the planet like you're dying? What happened? Metal Sonic then disguises himself as Eggman and intentionally gets his can kicked so that he can collect data on Sonic and his friends and use that data to transform into a giant metal dragon. But he's only the second coolest character that you thought was dead but is actually brought back in this game because Shadow is alive. Woo! And he thinks he might be a mass-produced android, because he was totally not supposed to be alive after the events of Sonic Adventure 2. But Sega was like, you're not allowed to die. You're too profitable. So you're gonna be in this game where you shoot guns. It's gonna appeal to a teenage audience and make us a lot of money. And it did not. But it did conclude Shadow's character arc as he defeats his evil alien dad and destroys the prophesized evil alien comet by teleporting it back into space and blowing it up with the arc's cannon. On a completely different note, Sonic saves a rabbit named Cream and her Chow and her mom in an otherwise uneventful GBA game. But I'm mentioning it because they joined the reoccurring cast of characters that will be hanging out with Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games in Rio. Sonic 06 is a game about time travel, where Sonic makes a grown woman fall in love with him, and then dies, and that human character has an evil demon monster sealed inside them that emerges whenever they cry. So a cat and a hedgehog from the doomed future that Sonic created travel to the past to try to kill Sonic before he originally dies, so that he doesn't make the woman cry and bring the world to ruin. But by the end of the game, it's like a complete time loop, and everything that did happen didn't happen. So we don't have to think about it, and not for the reasons people already don't want to think about it. In the Sonic Rush games, Eggman steals some rectangular soul emeralds from the princess of another dimension. So Blaze the cat is sent to Sonic's universe by the emeralds, where she must battle Eggman alongside his soul dimension counterpart, Eggman Nega. I'm not taking any chances of getting demonetized. And later in the Sonic Rivals games, when Eggman with a white mustache is turning people into literal playing cards and has a grand scheme of turning the whole world into a playing card in possibly the most absurd video game plot of all time, which is saying a lot, he states that he's actually from the future. And Silver the Hedgehog comes from the future and is like, yes, he's from the future and I'm here to stop him. But the dude originally said that he was from Blaze's dimension, and then in Sonic 06, Blaze is actually from the future, like the doomed future that Sonic created. This greatly confused my pea-sized brain, so I turned to Google to see if I'm just stupid, and learned that Sonic fans were also confused. So I guess it's just confusing. In Sonic Unleashed, we learn that there's a monster called Gaia stuck inside the planet, like a Kinder egg. And every million years, it cracks the world open, and a fairy named Chip has to put it back together. Eggman then builds an amusement park, which is actually a cover-up for a giant mind control ray that he plans to fire onto the Earth, which is powered by these cute alien creatures named Wisps. Also, this is the turning point in the franchise where the dialogue starts to read like a Saturday morning cartoon, which works when it's in a Saturday morning cartoon, but for a video game, it's hard to take the plot seriously when the characters aren't taking the plot seriously. Meanwhile, Sonic Team was like, let's make a game where you can play through City Escape and Green Hill Zone, but with modern graphics and good controls. I mean, it's nostalgic, it has to sell. And it did, as they somehow created the most critically acclaimed Sonic game of all time, where the Time Eater interrupts Sonic's birthday party that he's having with all of his friends and also the guys from Team Chaotix, sucking them all into a time rift where the Sonics and Tailsai from both the past and the present must complete the hypest levels from all of the past Sonic games, or at least the ones that matter, to free their friends from their eternal stasis. Sonic Team was then like, F it, let's just make Super Mario Galaxy, but with a cool hedgehog instead of a fat plumber. And it did not work. In this game, Robotnik is sucking the life stream out of a planet until these comically designed demons overthrow him with their robot mind-controlling powers. And then they use his machine to try and suck the earth dry, until Sonic goes through a bunch of levels and then stops them. You know the deal. Also, the Wisps are in this game, even though in the last episode they were freed from Eggman and presumably went back to their planet to live in peace or whatever. I mean, it just violates the laws of video games. Like, that was last game's gimmick, just like stay in your lane, okay? Now it's been 30 years of Sonic games, and just about every single one centers around Eggman wants the Chaos Emeralds. Where are the Chaos Emeralds? We gotta collect the Chaos Emeralds! So Sonic Team shook things up a bit by introducing a new MacGuffin for games to be centered around. The Phantom Ruby. Yeah, another gemstone. As a dimensional breach sent it to Sonic during the classic era, and classic Eggman is like, oh sick, new gemstone just dropped. Unfortunately, the gemstone-addicted Hedgehog takes it away from this poor old man. And the Ruby warps classic Sonic to the future to help modern Sonic, because he's stuck in the game Sonic Forces. And one of Eggman's rare non-metal goons got his furry butt kicked by Shadow. So the Jackal used a copy Eggman created of the Phantom Ruby for infinite power, and helped Eggman finally defeat his arch-nemesis and take over the world. And it only took 27 years. But through the combined efforts of classic Sonic, modern Sonic, and my persona, the Angst Assassin is defeated. And classic Sonic and his Phantom Ruby go back to the past. Those colorful crystals then mysteriously gather on Starfall Island, so our colorful protagonists fly there to investigate when they get sucked into a wormhole and imprisoned in the Ancients' old cyberspace dimension, where Eggman's unnecessarily adorably designed AI Sage learned from the Ancients who created the cyberspace and came to the conclusion that our small-brained blue hedgehog would eventually destroy the Titan containing the end. And that would not be good. So Sage controlled the Titans and had them fight Sonic to try and stop him from releasing a world-ending threat, resulting in the coolest 20 minutes of Sonic gameplay ever witnessed. But the Blue Fiend eventually succeeds in his dastardly plans, and Sage is like, "You spiky meatball, you just released the biggest threat to the universe that we've ever seen!" And Sonic is like, "Dang, that sucks. Why don't you just throw me at it, like really hard, like a baseball?" And they do just that, as the end meets the end. And Dr. Eggman is like, "I'm so very proud of you, my daughter. See guys, I have a heart now. Will you forgive me for stuffing animals into machines and blowing up the moon and trying to enslave alien races?" And that's the entire Sonic series. Kinda. I mean, there's like 50 games, but you get the gist of it. If you have a game or a series you'd like to see me cover next, then leave it in the comments and I'll try to get to it when I can. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.